Summer, 1967. South Vietnam. Thick, unmoving heat hangs between the trees. Cicadas scream in the canopy, forming a relentless wall of sound. And somewhere inside that noise, a break. A faint metallic click. A small mechanical breath. Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock kneels over the body of a young Marine. Next to the fallen man lies a spent .0-caliber casing. Bent, deliberately placed, like a message, like a signature. In that moment, Hathcock feels something he almost never allowed himself to feel. Fear. He knows exactly what the casing means. Cobra, the invisible North Vietnamese sniper personally selected to hunt one man, the White Feather, America's most dangerous marksman. Hathcock, a ghost reputation chasing a ghost enemy. Cobra was a feral predator, a man who lived off snakes and insects, who vanished into the jungle for months at a time, who fired only when he wanted someone to die. Now he had left a trail, and Hathcock followed it. Hours later, another shot would crack across the jungle, inches from Hathcock's face. His spotter would drop beside him, and a duel would begin in a world where both men understood one truth. The next shot decides everything, but who gets to fire it? In the 1960s, the US Marine Corps faced a new kind of war. Vietnam wasn't a battlefield with clear front lines. It was a maze of jungle trails, hidden trenches, ambush points, and an enemy that dissolved into the undergrowth before a radio call could be made. The Marines needed shooters who could see farther, wait longer, and stay calmer than the average soldier. Men who understood stillness. Men who understood patience. Carlos Hathcock grew up in poverty in Arkansas. Hunting wasn't sport, it was survival. As a child, he learned to track rabbits, birds, even turtles through brush, so thick it seemed alive. By 8 years old, he rarely missed. By 12, he knew he belonged behind a rifle, not a shotgun. His father, a World War II veteran, put a German Mauser rifle in his hands when he was 3. That gift never left him. At 17, he enlisted. Small, wiry, but tough. He absorbed punishment in silence, marched through boot camp like it was a challenge meant specifically for him, and still found time to outshoot nearly everyone in his platoon. But before Vietnam would learn his name, Hathcock had to become something rare. A shooter who never rushed, a Marine who didn't break, a man whose calm under pressure bordered on frightening. When he won the Wimbledon Cup, the greatest long-range shooting title in America, some said he had reached his peak. They were wrong. Vietnam wasn't looking for champions. Vietnam was looking for someone like Hathcock. A sniper is not a weapon. He is a system built around a weapon. Hathcock understood this better than anyone. His primary rifle was the Winchester Model 70 in .30-06, topped with an 8-power unertl scope. It wasn't a modern precision rifle. It wasn't even particularly forgiving. But in Hathcock's hands, it became an extension of breath, muscle, and intention. He knew the rifle's heartbeat, how metal contracted in the cold, how humidity altered the barrel, how jungle heat warped a shot over distance. He lived for the math, but he fired with instinct. Before each mission, he entered what he called the bubble. His world narrowed, his pulse slowed, his voice softened to almost nothing. Instructors said, an elephant could sit on him during a shot. If the scope wasn't blocked, he wouldn't react. The way he moved through the jungle bordered on unnatural. He didn't walk, he slid. He didn't crawl, he flowed over the ground like a shadow. Insects crawled across his bare skin, as if he were part of the terrain. His spotter, often John Burke, learned to speak without speaking. A finger tap meant wind. A shallow breath meant target. A twitch of the jaw meant brace. Inside the thicket, Hathcock became something else. A quiet hunter, a living periscope. He could lie motionless for 12 hours, sometimes 24. Once, 72 hours without rest, barely sipping water, camouflaged in dirt and sweat, inching toward a target one slow breath at a time. When the shot finally came, it was never luck. It was discipline layered over instinct, layered over talent. And as Vietnam grew more chaotic, the man in the white feather became less of a soldier and more of a rumor. Near Duc Pho, Hathcock spots a thin boy pushing a bicycle under the blazing sun. The sweat, the wobbling frame, the rifles, 4 on the handlebars, 3 strapped to the seat. Ammunition bulging from a sack. The Viet Cong used children. Everyone knew it. It never made it easier. Hathcock refused to aim at the kid. He aimed at the bike. The shot shattered the fork. The boy flew forward. For a moment there was hope. Maybe he'd run. Maybe he'd drop the weapons and vanish. But the boy rolled onto his stomach, grabbed an AK, and chambered a round with practiced hands. Hathcock fired again. He'd write it in his log like every other shot, but he'd remember this one forever. Weeks later, Hathcock lies prone beside a modified M250 caliber machine gun. He'd mounted an unearthal scope onto the receiver, stabilizing it with metal braces and stubborn marine ingenuity. Below him, a lone Viet Cong bends to fill a canteen. 2,500 yards, almost a mile and a half. Impossible, except to Hathcock. He eases the trigger. The machine gun bucks. A heartbeat passes. The target collapses. It becomes the longest confirmed sniper kill in history, standing for decades. Hathcock simply wrote it down. Apache was more than a sniper. She was fear given a voice. Marines heard the screams of her victims echo through the jungle nights. Young men tortured, brutalized, left to die at dawn as warnings. Hathcock hunted her for days. Patient, silent, cold. When she finally appeared in his scope, the shot was almost gentle, a single round to the neck. Later he would say, "It was the best shot I ever made." Cobra was different. Cobra was a mirror. He left a message. A Marine shot dead at Hathcock's feet. He laid traps, false trails, footprints that looked just a little too perfect. Hathcock followed anyway. Hours passed. Sweat stung his eyes. Every step felt like a dare. Then, a glint. A reflection smaller than a fingernail. A scope. Hathcock fired. His bullet pierced Cobra's scope, traveled straight through the lens, and struck the sniper in the eye. A duel between hunters who never saw each other's face, ended by the smallest shimmer of sunlight. After Vietnam, Carlos Hathcock was a man carrying more scars than stories. Severe burns, suffered while rescuing Marines from a burning vehicle, ended his military career. But they didn't end his legacy. The white feather became both legend and burden, admired by Marines, feared by enemies, but misunderstood by many. The United States wanted to forget Vietnam. It was a conflict without victory, without glory, a war that left more questions than answers. Men like Hathcock didn't fit neatly into the narratives that followed. Yet his influence shaped the future. He revolutionized sniper training within the Marine Corps. He defined the standards, the tactics, the philosophy still taught today. He showed what patience, discipline, and mental steel could accomplish in a world defined by chaos. To the Viet Cong, he was a nightmare. To his spotters, he was a lifeline. To Marines decades later, he became the blueprint. But Hathcock himself never chased myth. He didn't see numbers or records, only duties, missions, and the Marines he protected. History would remember him quietly. But the men who lived because he pulled a trigger would not forget. Some warriors carve their legacy in headlines. Hathcock carved his into silence. A single white feather rests today inside a dim display case. Beside it lies a weathered Winchester, the wood scarred, the metal dulled by monsoon rain and jungle heat. The room is silent. No jungle, no screaming cicadas, no echo of a distant rifle crack. Only the faint memory of a man who drew an invisible line in Vietnam, between hunter and hunted, and between fear and control. For some, he was a hero. For others, a shadow. For himself, He was just a Marine doing what had to be done.